new mayor and council have approved to solve our financial situation, the need to restore trust and repair with our collective bargaining groups who've been working with us so well over the course of the last couple months, and to discuss our current budget problem and educate people on the budget. So it was a great meeting. We thought that it ended really well, and we thought that it would be necessary to pull all of you together to augment the great things that we talked about yesterday. The situation that we're in right now has really happened over decades, and we see that there's a lot of heavy lifting left for this organization, and it won't be done overnight. It won't be done in 1 month or 2 months. But with the help of our employees and the bargaining groups and everybody coming together, we think that we can solve the issue.
Sure.
Question?
Let's talk maybe a little bit about timing. I see in the Wednesday agenda, from last Wednesday, if I remember correctly, there was, I know it's from a different budget item, but the capital improvement project money, $2.1 million in addition for the Craig Ranch Regional Park Amphitheater. Different budget, I understand, but it's a timing issue. I mean, you know, when public employees are hearing that they have, that it's really tough times, and on the same type of time, they're hearing that we're talking about more money for an amphitheater. Can you talk about that timing?
I think it's important to really hone in on the distinction between the two. When you talk about capital improvement plans, those are for fixed assets at over $50,000, cannot be used towards salaries and benefits, and that very fact is really the distinction that we need to focus in on. Those monies for any capital improvement plan or project cannot be used for salaries and benefits. And although the timing, you know, could be something where people think twice about, the reality is those monies are not interchangeable. They are not usable towards salaries and benefits.
You described that yesterday's meeting, that it was a great meeting, but I think there's a lot of anxiety that's come out of that, especially when employees and unions are hearing that you either have to do this or face layoffs, something that I think the people who aren't happy about this say that you said you would never do. So how do you respond to that in terms of the anxiety that these being forced in this situation?
We're focused on the only plan that the new mayor and council have approved. And that's one that retains the services that we have, the jobs that are in place, and for the citizens that are in our great community, it's one that we think is the only option. And I can tell you the team, the mayor, the new council, that's what we're working toward. All the intellectual energy, all the emotional energy is focused on that plan.
So it's either the $7.7 million settlement or it's layoffs. There's just no wiggle room anymore.
No, what I'm saying is that the only plan we're focused on, one plan, the only plan, is the one where jobs are preserved, services are retained, and it's the only one the new mayor and council have approved.
You talked to us about the additional impact of the, I believe this $4 million settlement that was discussed just the past few days regarding the developer that has been found against the city. What sort of impact does that extra $4 million have?
It wasn't actually a settlement, it was a judgment from the Supreme Court. It was for pre-condemnation damages. We were not happy with that decision that came down from the Supreme Court. We think it'll have definitely some long-lasting effects on not only municipalities, but the state as a whole. And we're looking at our options right now. It was a judgment that just came out on Friday, and we're still reviewing our options.
You have a deadline, I believe, April 15th. So tell me exactly how this is going to play out in the next couple of weeks. If you do not have everybody on board, what's going to happen?
So true, April 15th is a deadline for us to have our tentative budget up to the state. That's a law that we have no control over. But I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to continue to meet with our bargaining groups. We have great two-way communication. Their leadership has been great to work with through this entire situation. We're meeting with 3 of them today. And we're going to continue to stay focused on the only plan that we plan to implement. And that's one where there's collaboration and teamwork. And our collective bargaining groups are crucial. They're integral. They are a part that we cannot leave outside of this solution. And they've been very, very understanding of our situation and continue to work with us.
But right now, about three out of the 4 leaders, I believe, are saying that they're not happy with this. They feel like they were blindsided by this ultimatum, I guess, if you want to call it that. So do you feel that everyone's going to come to the table today and you'll have some sort of miraculous decision?
So what I would tell you is that we have repair work to do. Contracts were broken, but we have, again, meetings with 3 out of the 4 unions today. And we plan on addressing concerns that they may have, and they continue to come to the bargaining table. We continue to come to the bargaining table. So ultimately will be a solution that neither one side can do without the other.
The unions in the past have alleged that there's the proverbial money in the seat cushions very much, that there's some sort of additional funding that can be tapped somehow. What assurances do you have that, you have reached through the seat cushions and there is no extra money to be found?
Well, I can tell you the new mayor and council has taken painstaking efforts along with staff to be as transparent as possible. We've had special city council meetings, the CLGF, the Department of Taxation, outside accounting groups, from analysts to literally the state has come in with their own independent analysts, the city of Las Vegas, and everybody comes to the same conclusion, that we're in a significant financial emergency, and we're in a situation where we need the helps of many stakeholders. So to the answer of do we have money in the seat cushion, I believe we've illustrated that we have no money, and we're doing our very best to cobble any funds available to settle with those contracts that we haven't been able to abide by.
Remind us in a sense what's at stake here, because we're not just talking about North Las Vegas. Any sort of financial impact on North Las Vegas could really have an impact on neighboring cities, in the bond market especially. Remind us about that.
I mean, there's no doubt that this is moving in front of the mics now. I was actually going to tell you earlier that our amphitheater solved because we're named it after you in Channel 8. So your endowment's going to take care of it. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to. But,
Thanks.
I mean, there's no doubt that what's going on in North Las Vegas has tremendous impact across the region. That's something that's been very crystal clear in multiple discussions with shared services. It's been reported widely by you folks. And this is not an easy task. What we're trying to do is we're trying to prevent the 5th largest bankruptcy in the history of the United States. And this is not a small problem. It's not a small lift that we're working on, and that's the reason why it is as complex of a problem it is. But if North Las Vegas was to suffer a state receivership, the impact that it would have to all of the bonds throughout the state and probably neighboring states is tremendous. And that's one of the reasons that we're working so closely with Las Vegas, to make sure that we come together with solutions that prevent something that could really poison the pool for everyone.
You mentioned 5th largest bankruptcy in the history of the United States. That's an interesting figure I have not heard before.
Municipal bankruptcy.
Municipal. How do we come to that figure in a sense? I suppose, what are the rankings and how does North Las
I don't know.
Vegas-
DeHaven reported on it, so.
Okay. I'll do some math.
So in a perfect world, what is it that you want, just lay it out for me, just the exact plan that you want adopted?
Well, I can tell you the exact plan that we want to adopt is a plan that retains jobs and services, and we're working hard to accomplish that goal. We can't do it by ourselves. We have some repair work to do with the leadership from the unions, and we're working hard because this team and this mayor and council, this new mayor and council, respects that relationship. And it's one that we need to cultivate, and they have a difficult job to do, and as do we in the situation that we're in. And so ultimately, it's a solution where we can all come together to collaborate and settle our financial problems.
Where would this settlement money, where would that come from? Where would you be taking that out of? Payroll, I guess, or?
Right, so in a special city council meeting, we reported on record for everybody that there would be a total of $7.7 million that would be applied towards a settlement. $2.1 million would come from the More Cops Fund if certain restrictions and concessions were in play. $900,000 would come from an attrition savings. $400,000 would come from the municipal courts. And then $2.2 and $2.1 million would come from reducing the ending fund balance from 8% to 6%, and an a better performance from CTAX for a total of $7.7 million.
Is there any possibility or option to ask the Attorney General for an AG's opinion on whether or not any other money can be used, whether or not, you know, the capital improvement project money can be tapped into somehow, like any option to go to the AG and be like, could we get some potentially favorable opinion? Spitballing an idea. I
A
guess.
favorable opinion to, well, the capital improvement plan
Yeah,
and
the
the
tap into-
statutes that kind of address that
Yeah.
are very clear in saying that they can only be used for capital improvements for over $50,000. I could ask that opinion, but I think that the statute's pretty clear on its face that those funds are designated for that purpose.
Spitballing, right?
Yeah, oh, but we've been very open in contacting the Legislative Counsel Bureau and the Attorney General's office for guidance on other issues. That's something that North Las Vegas has always been open to doing.
So any good questions? No, I'm kidding. One thing to think about that has been very clear is this idea that the state is some kind of a safe harbor for
Yeah.
people. The mayor, he speaks quite regularly with the governor and with the Department of Taxation. And one thing that is crystal clear is there's no safe harbor at the state level. In fact, interestingly, the state has said on the record numerous times in council meetings and in shared services meetings that whatever plan we have is the plan that they're going to adopt. We are the boots on the ground, and the state understands this. So there are no other options. They understand the expertise that we have in putting together the plan that we have, and to think that there's going to be some kind of another option down the road, there's not. They've been very clear about that.
You know, for the citizens of North Las Vegas, if they think that maybe, city government has failed us, maybe it would be a good thing for the state to take over. Could you explain how police services, fire services, different city services that people take for granted now would be radically different, if not potentially gone, under state receivership?
Yeah, that's an important point to understand is that it's not like we have a Beverly Hills government somewhere here in town that's flush with money. I don't even know if they're flush with money, I just assume they might be. But the state is not prepared for it, the county's not prepared for it, none of the cities are prepared for it. We're all kind of on the same path, we're just in different positions as far as we're dealing with our financial crisis moving forward. So what you traditionally would have happen anytime that there's any kind of a merger consolidation like that is it's a reduction in services for everybody involved. And they understand that, and that's the reason why there's zero appetite to do that.
And it's probably a better question for the state to ask as to what that would look like. And the state has been on record in saying that them coming in is not a good option, not only for employees, but for all the stakeholders in North Las Vegas. It's not a good option for anyone.
What is it that you can say to the employees today who really, they hear layoffs and panic sets in? So what can you say to those employees who will be listening to this today?
What I'd say to the employees and say to the community is the new mayor and council and every staff member is focused on the only plan that's been approved. And that's one that keeps all jobs, that keeps services going, that provides the level of service to the community that they have today that we don't want to see unchanged. And that's where we're focused. All of our energy is focused in that direction.
So even though there's kind of this threat, it's like, don't worry, no layoffs?
What I tell you is that there is an unwavering, unyielding energy that we're going to apply towards that plan. And there is no moving us from that energy. And it's one that the mayor and council is behind, that every staff member is behind, and every creative idea that we have is moving in that direction.
Could you help me understand one thing real quickly? 7.7 million would be potentially to address the settlement with the union's $1 million settlement. Where does that get resolved?
Yes, portions of that settlement do address the problem that we have next year in the $18 million deficit.
Does it address all of it?
Yes.
So the right.
Yeah, we do need concessions
The
going
right deal
forward,
with
yes.
the structural deficit could be dealt with the right deal struck with collective bargaining units?
That's correct. That's correct.
Entirely. It could all be solved with collective bargaining.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
And Jeff, what happens if you guys aren't able to strike that deal with the bargaining
We bring you in.
units? Well, I have a big paycheck.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the what-if scenario, again, James, I come back to really every meeting that we have. We have 3 meetings today with the leadership from 3 of the unions that continue to come in and talk with all of us and continue to have the two-way communication and continue to look for creative options for us to solve our problems. And when I say 3, that's just today. We continue to have meetings with all 4 of the union leaders that have difficult jobs as we do to go through this. And again, I come back to, there's only one plan. I'm going to tell you that I think we have a strong opportunity to implement that plan. But again, it's not a one-sided venture. It can't be just from one group or the other. We need everybody to come together, and we continue to have ongoing discussions with all of them that have been encouraging that the lines of communication remain open, and we will stay and remain focused on that plan.
And if there are layoffs, how do you, does that get rid of the lawsuit, I guess would be my question.
Right. So we're not focused on reductions. We're focused on the plan that we have. We're focused on a great plan that retains services and employees, and the new mayor and council have approved that plan, and that's what we're focused on.
I don't think we have the spelling
Yeah.
and position of our position that you have. Pardon me, could you say and spell your name and your position?
Sandra Douglas Morgan, Douglas Douglass, Morgan MORGAN, city attorney.
Is there a timeline when a tentative budget could be presented in like a public meeting, sometime in the next, 2.5 weeks before?
It needs to be submitted April 15th. I think we have a special city council
On
meeting.
April 8th.
On April
And
8th.
that's the plan would be to have a tentative budget to present that?
That's correct.
And Ryan,
10th.
April 10th.
April 10th.
Okay.
April 10th?
Yes.
And Ryan, can you just also on the record too, just your name as well, just so we can have everybody.
Ryan Juden, RyanNN, JUDEN, and I'm the chief of staff of the mayor and council.
Just in case somebody sees this.
That it?
Sounds super.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Appreciate it.
Well, Business Chambers